Hey, Blondie.
Yeah, Zero?
Hey, I know it's been a while, but remember back in your Earthworm Jim 3D review where I mentioned that SCR gave both you and me a copy of State of Emergency and that we could probably do a collab on it? Yeah, I'm still waiting to hear an answer back from you on that.
Oh, right.
Well?
Alright, fine. We'll do it.
Great! I'll be right over!
Okay, wait, you're not serious about coming right over right now, are you? He was serious.
Hey, Blondie! Ready to review the game?
Yeah, might as well. I'm not even gonna ask how you got here instantly when you're actually about 4 hours away from me. Come on in.
Oh boy! Wow, Blondie's room. It's so much different in person. So much more lively.
We just get in here already?
Yeah, whatever. Keep your pants on.
Hey, this is Long Guy Gamer.
And I'm Zero Master.
And welcome to, do we have a name for this collaboration?
I didn't really think we needed one.
Well, we might as well to give this crossover some distinction, you know?
Okay.
Welcome to Black Maverick Sheep Hunting?
Black Maverick Sheep Hunting, or something like that.
Okay then.
So in this now proclaimed Black Sheep Maverick Hunting,
We're gonna take a look at State of Emergency for the PS2.
State of Emergency came out in 2002 for the PlayStation 2 and the following year on Xbox and PC. It was published by Rockstar and developed by someone who already covered a couple of their games, VIS Entertainment.
It's pronounced Viz. You've been pronouncing it wrong the whole time.
And how do you know that?
I just do.
Okay, fine. Let's just stick with Viz for now for simplicity's sake. Anyway, Viz is a developer that didn't exactly make, shall we say, games of the highest quality, with about half their games being Tom and Jerry and Powerpuff Girls games that I'm sure not many care about all that much.
I kinda like the N64 Powerpuff Girls game.
Why am I not surprised?
What? It's fun.
Among their other games, Earthworm Jim 3D is one that sticks out in particular for me for being a rather uninspired 3D platformer and Earthworm Jim sequel with plenty of issues and shortcomings.
I still say Earthworm Jim 3D isn't that bad.
and I still say you need to actually play through the game to give it a full opinion.
Well, maybe you'd like to play through the Pirates game to give it a full opinion,
Let's just move on before we pick around some more.
Regardless, not all the games Viz made were bad. For example, Evil Dead: A Fistful of Boomstick is okay as far as Evil Dead games go, but that's the thing with Viz games. They're okay at best at one end, or laughably bad like the 2005 Narc reboot on the other. In that game, you're a narcotics officer that can take the drugs. Way to completely miss the point of the original Narc, guys. But before those, we have State of Emergency, a somewhat unique game from Viz to say the least.
State of Emergency takes place in the near future. Wait, it takes place in the future?
Yeah, so in the manual, in the year 2035.
Really? This game doesn't look futuristic at all.
I know, weird, huh?
Well, anyways, a corporation called American Trade Organization has taken over and a resistance freedom group has started an uprising against them in the capital city. Gee, a game where you fight an evil corporation. Sounds like a game that someone would enjoy. I said, sounds like a game that someone would enjoy.
Sorry, it's a fictional corporation. Not interested.
Oh. So does he like live here, or? Anyways, the city declares a state of emergency for this game's title drop. After the opening FMV, we're treated to a compressed gameplay demonstration with a hip-hop style song about the game, if it wasn't already obvious that this is from the early 2000s.
State of emergency, the war is on, diplomacy won't cure it. Fire on the concrete and blood stains on the surface.
Once you start the game, you play as one of two resistance fighters that are available, an ex-cop named Mac and ex-lawyer Libra, in two game modes. Chaos mode, where you play to get a high score in a lot of times, and Revolution mode, which is the game's campaign mode having complete numerous missions in each of the 4 levels. The basic goal of State of Emergency is to cause as much damage and anarchy as you can to stick it to the corporate men or some faux rebellion crap like that.
The gameplay of State of Emergency is a 3D beat 'em up with punch and kick attacks with the X and square buttons, triangle for a 360-degree attack to knock down surrounding foes, pushing X and square together for grab attacks, and circle to pick up objects and weapons. You'll notice right away when you start playing this game is that there are always a ton of people everywhere looting and rioting and whatnot. While it is a fairly impressive technical achievement for Viz to have this many characters on screen with a consistent frame rate for a PlayStation 2 game at the time, they mostly just run around aimlessly and only make the areas needlessly cluttered. It feels more like a glorified tech demo to see how many people they can cram into a level rather than a game because of this, which doesn't help to make the game feel any less dated.
Speaking of dated, some of the controls haven't held up all that well either. Close quarter combat is fine, but it's when you try using firearms that the game starts to get a little cumbersome, since it's not what we now normally use in third-person shooters. When holding a gun, you can stand still and fire, run while firing, or hold R1 or L1 to strafe while firing.
It's kinda like Mega Man Legends, but keep in mind, that was a PlayStation 1 game.
These will work in a pinch against large groups of enemies and objects to destroy, but aiming with those methods is pretty loose. The most annoying is when you fire down on fallen bodies when you're right next to them and waste ammo. The camera also doesn't help much, which while you can rotate with the right analog stick and bring it behind you with the shoulder buttons, trying to position yourself and the camera while mobs of enemies are rushing towards you isn't exactly easy to pull off. Fortunately, there is a precision aiming mode by holding R2 or L2, which adjusts the camera behind you at a better angle to aim more specifically, but it can still be sensitive and hard to gauge your shot since there's no targeting reticle. Point is, the gunplay in State of Emergency can take a while to get a hang of.
When you're not wrestling with the gun controls, melee fighting is still effective, but a mixed bag as well. You can string together basic combos, but it's easy to get overwhelmed when you're surrounded. And when you get knocked down, it'll take a second to get back up, which isn't all that fun in a time-sensitive game. The worst is getting hit by fire, where the character screams and falls to the ground every time in what seems like an eternity.
I get knocked down.
And the problem of accidentally attacking nearby bodies that pile up around you can still happen with melee. However, you can just mash the grab command to take out people one by one while the rest of the horde will just stand there, making for a rather cheap exploit against the not great AI. But in the long run, the game does offer a decent amount of content with the aforementioned modes. With Chaos Mode, there are actually several modes for each stage, with the main one being Chaos, that's spelled with a K for some reason like it's trying to be Mortal Kombat, even though the actual Chaos Mode is spelled normally to differentiate it.
Because inconsistent literacy is cute.
In Chaos, all you need to do is go for a high score, with the best way to earn points by destroying buildings with Molotov cocktails or explosives, along with completing certain bonuses and objectives that pop up. It's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater without skateboarding, so Tony. There's also penalties for killing civilians now and then, so you are punished for indiscriminately killing innocent people. Occasionally. You have a time limit, but you can extend it by dispatching hostiles that will drop clock pickups for more time in addition to health recovery ones. Reaching a certain score for a stage will unlock the next one, and you'll also have fixed 3 and 5 minute modes as well. And reaching the high score on those will unlock Last Clone Standing, where you hunt down 200 clone soldiers as fast as you can. Finally, after getting the high score in all 4 levels, you unlock an unlimited time mode to see how long you can last, if you weren't already tired of playing this mode by now. But initially, Chaos Mode can be fast-paced and frantic, reminiscent of an arcade game, and can be enjoyable, albeit a little repetitive.
In Revolution Mode, you play the levels in a more Grand Theft Auto style, how fitting considering the publisher, in which you run up to freedom fires and accept missions. You'll primarily fight the corporation and their typically evil corporate plans, but there are also several gangs you'll either help out or get rid of, such as the Mallrats, Third Street Killers, and the Skinheads. Though with the last one, just be glad it's not the Skin Bodies instead.
The skin bodies are like skinheads, but 10 times worse. The skin bodies rule the streets.
About half the missions you'll do are pretty straightforward, such as kill targets or steal something and bring it back. As for the other half, well, let me put it this way. You know how most, if not all, gamers seem to unanimously not like escort and protection missions in video games? Well, guess what? Half the Revolution mode is doing these missions. And they can indeed be very frustrating to do, what with the shoddy AI and not perfect controls. If there is ever a game to fully live up to the annoying escort mission in games trope, State of Emergency would be it. Seriously, it got to the point where you just mash R2 to sprint to the objectives and hope the people I'm escorting don't get hung up on something or someone and die. In fact, most missions that require you to get to an area you can just speedrun to, and once you complete a mission, you regain health and anyone that was chasing after you will immediately stop going for you and run off somewhere else. Stop right there, you criminal scum! Oh, never mind, he won the mission. Let's get a bite of Rocket Burger.
I honestly don't know how you're even able to clear all these missions, Blondie. The level design for the stages are kind of all over the place. You do have an arrow telling you where to go, but it doesn't do a great job in actually guiding you. Seriously, where the hell do I go?
Gee, it really would be nice if I had like a map so I could see where the objectives are.
There is a map, Zero.
What, where?
It's up on the D-pad.
What the fuck? Why didn't the game tell me?
It's in the manual.
What? Let me see that. Well, shit! Probably would have helped if I had the manual. Fuck! That's another thing. This game has no tutorial at all. I'm not asking to have my handheld here, but if you have a copy with no manual, you can miss out on some crucial information on how to play this game, and that it apparently takes place in the future. Even then, the map is pretty limited. It only shows you current objects and bring it up obstructs your view. If you could toggle between this and a mini-map in the upper right corner, it wouldn't be a problem, but I guess Viz didn't think of that.
Anyway, doing Revolution mode can get a little monotonous after a while. Each stage ends with many gratuitous building explosions and you unlock another character. These include ex-gang member Spanky, hacker and SCXCR lookalike Freak, and ex-sports ball star Bull. But in all honesty, besides the looks and animations, these characters don't seem to play all that different from each other, so the character choice is pretty much cosmetic. And once you beat the fourth and final stage of Revolution, that's it. You don't even get credits unless you select them from the main menu. Needless to say, going through all those missions in Revolution isn't that rewarding.
After that, there really isn't much incentive for replay value. There's just the 2 modes with the same 4 levels. In the PS2 version, there's no multiplayer, which is kind of a bummer, but the latter Xbox and PC versions did add deathmatch and cooperative modes. But if you're hoping to play the PS2 version with a friend, the best you can do is take turns in chaos and try to get the best score. So we didn't even bother to play the game together.
You're lucky this time, Blondie.
Not like you'll be able to beat my score.
Shut up.
The only other thing left to do really is mess around with some cheat codes. There's the usual invulnerability, infinite ammo or time, and then there's a few like big or small characters, and my personal favorite, being able to decapitate people with punches. I found this to be pretty therapeutic actually.
That's a little disturbing, but then again, the game is pretty over the top with its violence and never really takes itself too seriously with plenty of satire and goofy animations. The graphics are pretty dated and low on the polygons, which is pretty standard for Viz games, but it isn't terrible. The amount of character models running around is pretty cool, and the game can even be played in widescreen format.
Oh, just like that Pirates game you...
No.
But you just reviewed that.
No. As for the sound, it's okay too. The music is mostly the same low-key techno or jazz that just serves its purpose as background noise. Sound effects and the bits of voice acting are what you would expect too. Not bad, but nothing that truly stands out. So yeah, that pretty much sums up State of Emergency. It's got its problems, but it's still a fun and entertaining game. A lot better than Pirates, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, I know he critiqued it a lot, but for something that was initially a budget game, it's one of Viz's okay games. It can be entertaining, but in shorter bursts.
The reception the game got would seem to agree with us too, as it was pretty mixed, with the now questionable highest scores from IGN being an 8.3 and GameSpot with an 8.5, by Jeff Gertzman when he was with GameSpot no less. Well, at least he didn't give Kenny Lynch a score like that or he wouldn't have Giant Bomb. Hell, the GameSpot love doesn't even end there. The back of the case proclaims it was awarded top overall game of E3 from them back in 2001. Really? Out of all those games from that E3? Smash Melee, Eternal Darkness, Metroid Prime, Halo, Metal Gear Solid 2, Jak and Daxter, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, and they picked State of Emergency? I guess they were impressed by all those running people that much. And what's ironic is that the later PC and Xbox releases got lower scores from both IGN and GameSpot, which the included multiplayer didn't really impress them and the game seemed to already lose its lasting appeal on those guys.
There's also the fact that this game did garner some controversy, though not as much as any of the Grand Theft Autos. Washington state politicians denounced state of emergency for its similarity to the 1999 World Trade Organization riots in Seattle. It can be very easy to assume that the game's inspiration is from that, what with fighting against a corporation called the American Trade Organization and all, but in developer interviews it's clearly stated that it was not the case, and that the game's idea came about before those protests, being more inspired by soccer riots in England. Yeah, did we mention Viz was a Scottish studio? If not, then that would tip it off pretty well.
Despite that bit of controversy and lukewarm reception, State of Emergency quickly became an average game and fairly forgotten. It didn't help that Grand Theft Auto Vice City came out later that same year and pretty much overshadowed State of Emergency with its more over-the-top violence and satire, not to mention being a much better game. And even though Viz did shut down partway in development, a State of Emergency 2 did come out for the PS2.
So what you're saying is, they made a sequel? Because you know, State of Emergency 2 is kind of an obscure sequel, so it kind of fits for the criteria for they made a sequel.
I'm well aware of that, thank you.
So what you're saying is maybe someday we'll do State of Emergency 2 for they made a sequel?
If I get a copy of it, maybe. We'll see.
Okay then. State of Emergency is something you can get for pretty cheap these days, so if you do want an over-the-top arcadey game with massive hordes of people and plenty of action, then there's not much harm in getting it. Just be aware of its age design and mission structure.
Well, that's that. I'm actually glad you came down to review State of Emergency with me, Zero. It was certainly an interesting game to do.
Hey, anytime, man. So, same time next crossover?
Not sure if the next time will be a same time, but sure.
Alright, cool. So, what do we do now?
I don't know. You want to play some games that are better than State of Emergency? Or worse for some kicks?
Let's bust out the second CD.